Let's see what we can do. We are going to start up a little poker vlog. Super unofficial. Don't plan on doing this very often, if at all, after this, but we're just going to put something together here and see if people like it. I've been doing this thing on Instagram where I just kind of post stack updates and session updates and stuff, and I figured I'd start to do like a little full-blown video capturing an entire session with important hands, big hands, highlights, downswings, all that sort of stuff. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jason. I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm 21. I've been playing poker for about 4 years, and poker's fun. I'm a dealer full-time in Manchester, and I play on the side. And I figured I'd start today here in Manchester. There's no other place to start, really. No other good place to start. Manchester's my home. It's literally right down the street from me, and without this place, I wouldn't really be doing a whole lot right now. So let's see what we can do today. All right, I'm just gonna play some 1-2. It's Wednesday afternoon. I'm going to a show tonight, so I'm just gonna put some hours in and see what we can do. Hey, just bear with me on this editing. I'm only using the basic editing software that Windows provides, and if I continue to do these videos, then I'll invest in better editing software. Manchester 1-2, and for the max of 300. The button straddle is on this hand to $5. Both the blinds limp, and we're going to go ahead and misplay our first hand. Under the gun with ace 10 off. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and raise that up, even though it should be folding. We'll make it 21. 4 callers, 5 ways to a flop, with including the middle position player, button, and both the blinds. Flop is 8 deuce deuce, 2 diamonds. I have the ace of diamonds. Small blind shoves all in. Only $17 though. So we're gonna call because we can't really go anywhere. We have backdoor nut flush draw and two overcards, and it's an amazing price to continue. So we're never folding there. So I call, middle position player calls, and all others fold. So now we're 2 ways to a potential side pot. Turns a queen, offsuit queen, checks through. I'm not trying to put any money in the pot with no draws or just ace high. And then the river is an 8, so double pairs the board. Ace high might be good, and it turns out it is good after we check through. We're up against jack 10 off in the middle position, and small blind just mucks. So ace 10 is good, ace high is good, and we're going to misplay a hand and get rewarded. In this next hand, there is an early limp, a middle position raise to 14, and I look at ace jack of diamonds in the small blind. Here I have to 3-bet because it's too strong of a hand to go multi-way, and I'd rather just get up against one other player. So I try to isolate and raise to 45. The big blind, however, just cold calls, so that throws the isolation out the window. And limper folds, and the raiser calls. So 3 ways to a flop: queen, jack, deuce, 2 diamonds. I have to check this flop. I'm out of position, and I have middle pair, so I already have some showdown value, and I'm not trying to blow up the pot. So I go for a pot control influenced check. Big blind checks, middle position player goes ahead and fires $40, and a down bet compared to the 3-bet. I have to call here. I'm not folding. There can be some turn cards that help me out, and I definitely am not drawing dead. So I call, and the big blind also calls. The turn is a 7 complete brick, and the action checks through on a brick card, and the river is a king. Action checks through again. I show ace jack, thinking I might be good at this point because the king was a bad card for me. I can never really bet that king on the river. I show my ace jack, no good, as the big blind shows ace king. So he got there in the river against us. The other player did not show, so I don't know what I was up against there, but we find ourselves under the gun with pocket jacks, make it 15. A little bit bigger than my normal raise size, but the action is picked up a little bit, so we're making it a little bigger. 15 to go under the gun. There is a middle position call, and others fold. The flop is 5-8-3 with 2 diamonds. Pretty good flop for the jacks, and I'm always c-betting here, especially when the opponent has about $130 in a stack-ish, somewhere around there. So I bet 20, and he calls. The turn is a 4 of clubs, so now the board is super connected, 2 flush draws, and there's only one sizing that makes sense here. He's got about 100 left. There's 70-ish in the pot, so I just put them all in, and he thinks about it for about 10 seconds, and he calls, and the river's a brick. The river's a 7. Another river is not a brick, actually. The river's a 7. I think I might not be good, but I am. So pocket jacks are good. Let's go.
You are looking live as we bust out the commentary over this hand. I have Queen of Clubs, 9 of Hearts on the button of all positions, which is the only reason why I record this hand. But anyway, the under the gun player limped and called. The blinds folded. We are heads up to a flop. Jack, Jack, Deuce, 2 clubs. I bet 20 after he checks. He's going to go ahead and call this $20 bet, and at this point I have Queen High. I'm at the very bottom of my range. I'm going to continue to fire on all streets, most likely, unless something drastic happens. He checks the 5 on the turn. I go ahead and continue to bet $40 as Frankie cuts it out. Sorry for the basement buddy. And my opponent ends up calling this $40 bet as we end up going to a river, which is gonna be a 4. The flush bricked out. There's no flush on the board. It's Jack, Jack, Deuce 4, 5. And I have Queen 9. When you're at the bottom of the range, just fire and hope for the best. That's what I do. Let's see what happens.
Queen High.
He calls, and I am no good. He's got Deuce 6.
Button straddles on again in this hand, and I'm in the small blind with Queen Jack of Spades and make it $20 to go. It is important to realize that when there are straddles in your games that you're playing, you have to size up the raises. Because after this hand was over, the guy to my left was like, $20 with Queen Jack suited? Like, that's pretty big. And it's really not with a straddle in play, and there's a lot of action on the table. You gotta size up. So anyway, Queen Jack of Spades, $20 in the small blind. 2 middle position calls, the button folds. I feel like every single hand history I've said here, I'm only playing against middle position players. But yeah, it kind of is. So the flop is Jack 5-7 with 2 clubs. And I go ahead and c-bet $30, a decent flop. Got to figure out where I am. I could check here sometimes, but against 2 other players, I want to figure out where I'm at. And my friend Jim, actually, Jim Norling, shout out to you, raises to $100. And at this point, the other player folds. And at this point, there's no hand I'm beating here. He's never going to be raising me with just straight air in a cash game here. So tournament, he might just be messing around and say, but cash game, no. So I go ahead and fold Queen Jack of Spades. He shows Queen Jack of Clubs. So he was free rolling me. He had a flush draw with the same exact pair and kicker. So it was a decent fold, I guess, but I have to fold there every time, and I'm glad I did. So nice hand, Jim. Same player we played against last hand. Jim is under the gun +1 and makes it 12 to go. There are 2 calls in front of me, and I'm on the button with King Queen off. And I should be 3-betting this hand more often than not. You block a lot of good hands. You block Ace King, Ace Queen, Kings, Queens. You should be applying pressure as early as possible in poker. And I did not this time because Jim had not been playing a lot of hands. So I didn't want to run into a 4-bet and have to fold. But anyway, I just call. Small blind calls. We're going 5 ways to a flop, which comes King 5-3 Rainbow. Jim checks. The player to his left bets 25. I make a pretty straightforward call here, and all others fold. The turn is another 3, and he bets 35. And at this point, I think I have the best hand. He would have 3-bet Jim if he had Ace King or Kings or a better hand than mine, Aces. So at this point, like I said, I think I have the best hand. I could be up against King Jack, King 10, King 9, maybe even King Queen. So I make it 85, and he tanks about it for a while, and he calls. And the river is a jack. And when I saw the jack, I was not a big fan of it at all. Like I said, he could have had King Jack, King 10, and if he had King Jack, then he now beats me. So I'm not trying to bet and then run into a check raise on the river and have to wish I checked. So he checks and I check back, and he shows king queen. I say you're no good, and I show king queen, and we chop it up. So nice hand. All right, this hand's a little bit of a weird one as we end out this video. There's an early position raise to $6, so a 3x raise in a 1-2 game. Never do that. What's your goal? Like, what are you accomplishing? Don't do that. There's a call of $6, and then short stack jams for 36, and actions on me in the small blind, and I have pocket threes, and I'm about even now. I'm sitting on 300 after I'm at this point I'm up stuck about 250, and I consider folding. I consider isolating. But I just call, which I think is the worst option because you're just set mining, and set mining against a short stack is not a good idea because too often they're just going to have you beat. So I think calling is the worst option, and so because it was the worst option, I went ahead and called, and the others call as well. So now there's about $140 in the pot as we see a flop of ace-8-3. 2 diamonds. So we flop bottom set here, multi-way. I go ahead and check. The other player checks, and my friend Nick Leichner, shout out to you, Nick, bets $50, and I call. The other player folds. The turn is a 7. I think it's an offsuit 7, and I am trying to check raise here on the turn. However, he checks back, so it doesn't work. And the river's a queen. I'm trying to get some extra value now. I bet 100, and he folds. The set of threes are good for the side pot and main pot, and that is the last hand of the session that we're going to go over.
So we end up leaving Manchester Poker Room at around 5:30 or so. We played until 5 and got some food in our stomach from the restaurant right next door called the Southside Tavern. Full-blown bar, restaurant, everything. A very nice place. And we are going to the show.
We're just going to go ahead and reverse this camera angle for the outro. So, first session in the books. New videos every time we upload. Like I said, not going to be a super official. Just whenever I have some extra time, I'll put something together. We were into the game in Manchester for 300 at 1:30. Cashed out at 5 o'clock for $470, so I made $170. In Manchester, I got to hook it up a little bit extra for the dealers because I work there as a dealer, and I don't mind hooking up my coworkers and my friends and stuff, so got to tip a little bit more. Not a problem. Made 170, still good. Modest 1-2 session, not anything groundbreaking, but had fun, made some money, and that was that. That's the end of the video, though. So if you could, leave a like for the YouTube algorithm's sake. Comment if you enjoyed. And I guess I'll see you next time. We'll see what we can do with this thing.